Hey, this is Dan here at Studio Blue. This is Pilates All Levels. Only props that you might need today, right? And I don't have one actually, but a mini band or a long TheraBand. Ooh, thank you. Look, magically I have one. Look, a mini band. So if you have one of these, awesome. If you don't have a little one, you can also wrap like a big band around your thighs when we get into the side series. It can also all be done without. So no worries, right? And if you get into it and you're like, oh, maybe not today, you can just ditch it. And if anything doesn't feel good in your body, especially your neck, your joints, shoulders, elbows, knees, hips, don't push through any kind of negative pain. All that said, we're going to start hands and knees today. All right. And just start to move. We're going to start to wake up the spine a little bit. So knees under the hips, hands under the shoulders. And just find a place where you're not real rounded or real arched. So we'll just kind of call it a flat back position. And just start by taking a couple of deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. And as you breathe in, allow your stomach to expand to the floor. And as you breathe out, feel your stomach lifting away from your t-shirt, keeping the back line still straight. And just take a couple more rounds like this. So inhale, just let the abdominals relax, let your stomach relax. Feel easy in the elbows. Exhale, waistline lifts. And then last one, inhale. And this time as you exhale, curl the tailbone round your spine, drop the chin slightly, allow the shoulder blades to widen, and just hold this position for a moment. So as you're pressing into your arms, feel that your shoulder blades are widening, so there's some muscular effort. Not much, but there's a little bit. And feel that the shoulders are still dropping out of your ears. Keep the tailbone curling. Try to relax the glutes and keep your lower waistline lifting. And then on your next breath, any breath you want, release the tail, start to arc through the spine and look slightly forward. And really feel that your breastbone is drawing down and kind of pulling forward a little bit. So we're trying to find some extension in the upper spine. And the lower spine, right, definitely has some extension, but see if you can find some work and some movement in the upper and the middle back. And again, just take a breath or two here. And you'll notice on the inhale, you might feel a little bit more work or a little bit more movement. And then this time as you exhale, curl your tailbone and start to articulate. So low back, middle back, upper back. Head drops down last. And then on a breath, start to release the tail and start to arc through the spine. So pelvis, low spine, middle spine, upper spine, and just easy in the shoulders, right? We're not jamming them down. We're not letting them lift. Eyes come forward as far as it's comfortable on your neck. And then start with your head this time. Drop the chin and round up through your upper back. This one usually feels a little goofy. So upper back, middle back, lower back, tailbone curls. And then again, start with the head. So the eyes start to look forward. Chest drops. Middle back, lower ribs, lower back, and pelvis. And then find the place in the middle of those extremes. And then look to the right and wag your tail to the right. Yeah, and you'll feel your left shoulder might come up a little bit, that's fine. Just kind of look over your shoulder and then come back through center and then wag your tail to the left and look to the left. So you want to feel a stretch on one side and a little bit of work on the other. And just keep doing this at your own time and your own pace. And if you imagine you were in between two walls or two panes of glass, right, you can't really kind of sway from side to side, and I'll demo it this way as well. So there isn't really a swaying or rocking, but you're staying in between those walls as you find your side bend. And this is a nice way to really start to open up the middle back, the lower back. And just finish off to your last side. Just make sure you're even. Feet together, knees open, and press into child's pose. Arms can be forward, or they can rest under your head. Let the shoulders just kind of fall heavy to the floor and take a couple of breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. And just start to notice how your body feels in this position. The hips, the back, the entire length of the spine, your shoulders. And we'll be back in this position in the end of the hour, and we'll kind of take note at how things feel after an hour of movement. And take a really big breath in through your nose. Focus the ribs expanding side to side, the back side opening, And then as you exhale, again, feel your stomach lifting a little bit away from your t-shirt, just like we did on hands and knees. And just one more like that. Inhale, breathe into the side and back of your ribs. Almost think of breathing up and over your thighs. And this time as you exhale, feel the stomach draw in, roll yourself up, and make your way onto your back. So if you want any kind of props or a little pillow under your head, if you need some neck support, anything like that, you can grab it. Hands are going to come completely together. They come behind the head, elbows to the sky. And then pelvis is neutral, so not super flat, not super arched. Let the chin drop slightly. And as you exhale, curl the head and the chest up. Just do about the tips of the shoulder blades and check that your pelvis didn't overly tuck under. So there's still some weight in the back of your sacrum and your tailbone. As you inhale, lower the chest and the head down. And keep going like this for now. So as you exhale, curling, right, head and chest up, feel the movement coming from the upper spine, the middle spine, the rib cage, and then taking it down, right? And this is just at your own time and your own pace for now. And you want to think of your head staying really heavy in your hands, right? Your hands are almost like a hammock. Yeah. And then keep feeling a little bit of lower abdominal to keep the pelvis and the lower back kind of in the same spot. So it's not tucking or arcing every time you lift and lower. And then really start to get a little deeper into your breath. So that exhale on the way up is going to help flex your spine. It's going to help get a little deeper into your lower abdominals. And then even that inhale, right, that can help open up the middle back and the upper back as you lower back down. And at any point today, as we start to progress and advance our ab work, you can always come back to this one, even if I don't tell you to, right? You can always come back to this. And if at any point you just want to lie here or come into child's pose, right? It's always an option as well. So just know that. Next time you lift up, hold at the top. Yeah, and again, feel your head's pretty heavy in your hands. Your elbows are lifting towards the sky, so the shoulder blades are pretty wide. And again, take a breath into the upper back, the side of the ribs. And this time as you exhale, imprint your lower spine. Try not to use your back or your butt, but think of using your abs. So pubic bone kind of pulling up towards the belly button, and then inhale, let your tailbone relax down. So again, as you exhale, curl. It's like your lower abs are kind of meeting your middle abs, and then inhale, relax. There's two more like that. Exhaling to curl, and inhaling to relax, head still heavy. And last one, exhale, curl. Inhale, relax the pelvis to neutral, lower the head and the chest down to the ground. So option here, you can go into that little bit of an imprint. Tailbone still heavy, legs come up to tabletop one at a time. So knees and hips about 90 degrees. Exhale, curl the head and the chest up. Feel the ribs drop down. Inhale, grab the back of your thighs with your hands. Elbows pretty wide, shoulders relax. And then maybe using your biceps, curl up just a little higher off your shoulders. On your next breath out, hands slowly go back to the head without losing your height. And on your next breath out, slowly lower the chest and the head. Try to keep the legs where they're at. Again, inhale at the bottom. Exhale, nod the chin slightly, curl. Inhale, grab your thighs. Exhale, curl up just a little bit higher. Relax the shoulders. Take one more breath in. On the exhale, right, the wider your arms go, the slower you go, the harder it is as you reach back, support the head. On your next breath, lower down slowly. Your abs are still working to lower you down. Again, inhale at the bottom. Exhale, curl up. Good, nice. Inhale, grab the back of your thighs. Yeah, as you exhale, relax the shoulders, but curl up maybe just a smidge higher. Feel some weight in the breastbone. On your next breath out, slowly, maybe take up a little more space as the hands come around to the back of the head. Now stay lifted on this one. So on your next breath out, tap your right heel towards the floor. Inhale it up, yeah. And then exhale the left heel towards the floor. Might touch, might not, right? See if you can maintain that imprint as you tap. Now this can also be done with your arms reaching forward, which will help curl you off your shoulder blades, especially if your upper back is feeling a little tight. This can be done with your head on the ground. This can even be done with your hands still behind your thighs for a little bit of support, both for the back and the neck. One more each side. Just make sure eventually you end to your left. And then once you finish that left side, hug the knees into the body, lower the head, and just rock your hips a bit from side to side. Lovely. Find a place that feels centered on the pelvis. Float the legs up to tabletop. So hips and knees 90, arms open to a T with the palms facing up. And then try to keep the knees glued together as you inhale. The legs are going to drift to the left. So the pelvis rolls open, the right shoulder stays heavy. We're only going to about 45 degrees or so. And then as you exhale, think of using your waistline. So obliques, ribs draw down, pelvis, knees come back to center. And then again, knees start to go over to the other side. Okay? And then think of using your waistline to bring you back. So keep going with this. This can also be done with the feet on the ground if you want to peel it back a little bit. This can be done with a fitness ball underneath your legs and really close up to your thighs for a lot more support. But as the legs move from side to side, right, not only feel your abs having to work, your obliques having to work, but start to feel a bit of a stretch in the front of the shoulder and the front of the chest. And some work, some activation behind the shoulders and behind the shoulder blades. Yeah. Just check in that your jaw is pretty relaxed, right? Your head's pretty heavy. And then eventually just take one more to the right. Nice. And then once you finish that right side, come to center, grab the back of the thighs again, lift the head and the chest. Again, take a breath, tail heavy, back imprinted slightly. On your next breath out, hands sweep around to the back of the head. We'll stay lifted. On your next breath out, you can go into your heel taps or right leg slides forward. So the feet are the same height. So say about 45 degrees or so. Inhale, bend back in. Think of deepening your ab curl as you bend in. And then exhale, left leg reaches forward. Inhale, think of deepening the waistline as you bend in. And as you reach out, kind of imagine that the hip is having to open, right? So the abs are staying in, the back line stays in the same position. The hip has to open as you reach out. Everything stabilizing as you pull in. Yeah. And then for Valerie, just reaching a little bit higher as you reach. Yeah, there you go. Yep. Yeah, just so the feet stay the same height today, right? And there's a million different versions of single leg stretch, right? Good. So take one more to the left. Good. Once that left leg bends in, lower the chest and the head. Take an inhale at the bottom. And as you exhale, curl back up. Tail still relatively heavy. On your next breath out, rotate to the right. Right, so we're looking at that right knee, the left shoulder blade has lifted a couple inches. If you want to add on, stretch the left leg forward. Inhale, bend everything back to center. Right, small twist to the left, and then right leg can stretch out. And then everything comes back to center. Exhaling to find your twist. Inhaling to come back to center. Exhaling to twist. Inhaling back. Now again, this can also be done with a heel tap, right? So you can peel back the leg movement. This can be done with your feet on the ground, so you're still just moving the upper body. The legs don't have to be involved in this, right? So your pick. Take one more to the left. Things should be starting to warm up a little bit. It's a cold, rainy day here in Portland, so it feels kind of nice. And then lower. Once you finish your left side, just lower everything back down to the ground. Knees bent, feet flat, and feet about shoulder distance to start with a little bit of a turnout. And then turn the palms to face up, take a little bit of space, or take up a little bit of space. And as you exhale, curl the tail and slowly start to roll the hips up to the sky. So as the hips start to lift, feel the glutes starting to kick in. The knees are stretching forward. The heels are gently pulling towards your shoulders, so those hamstrings are on as well. And at the top, feel that weight in the back of the shoulders and shoulder blades. Inhale, once you hit the top, exhale, roll down slowly. Really just take your time. It's a nice way to loosen up the spinal muscles, find some articulation in the back. Eventually, the pelvis opens to neutral at the bottom. And again, on your next breath out, curl the tail, roll up slowly. And just rolling to where the hips are in line with the knees and the shoulders. Yeah, feel the front of the abs and obliques working to help keep the rib cage down a bit. Glutes working to open up the front of the hips and thighs. Just one more like that, just rolling down at your own time and your own pace. Yep. So the next time you're down, you can bring your feet to hip distance, so inner hip distance, and then just try the same thing. So as you exhale, curl and roll up. And if your hips or thighs are tight at all, you'll definitely feel a little bit more stretch here. So thinking back of the glutes on, front of the ribs pretty heavy. And you're not pushing or shearing through the lower back to lift, but really letting the front of the pelvis open. Feel the knees trying to hug in. They won't touch, but feel that energy. And then again, on your next breath out, roll it down. And if it felt better with the feet more open today, go with the feet open. So adding on curl the tail, roll up. So this one will have to be done with the feet about hip bone distance if you want to add on to this. So once the hips, again, about in line with knees and shoulders, ribs are pretty heavy. Keep some weight in your right foot, and as you exhale, float the left heel or that whole left leg up tabletop, keeping the hips completely square. So just check in, make sure that left hip hasn't dropped. Lower the left hip down to the ground, put some weight in it, and then exhale, float the right leg up. And you might keep your hands on your hips if you want a bit more support, or if you want to just check in, right? What's happening when a leg lifts? Is there a big rotation or a big shift? And can you feel your standing glutes turn on to stabilize? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and again, a heel lift or that full leg up tabletop, your choice. Make sure front of the ribs are still fairly heavy, right? Abs are still on. And then end with your right leg lifting and lowering. Once both feet are on the ground, just roll it back down. Yeah, nice and slow. Lovely. All right, take a breath in. Hands together behind the head. Exhale, curl the head and the chest up. Find a bit of an imprint to the lower spine. One leg at a time up tabletop. And then one leg at a time towards the sky. And if the hamstrings are feeling particularly tight, just keep a bit of a bend in the knees. Is A-okay? Reach around, grab the back of your thighs, lift just up off your shoulder blades. And then keeping the imprint, both hands come behind the right thigh, just below the knee. The left heel is gonna reach to the ground. And just hold here for a moment. So feel the left heel really rooting into the floor as your right leg pulls towards you. So find a stretch in the hamstrings. As you exhale, switch legs. So right leg to the ground, left leg pulls towards you. And again, exhale to switch. Again, this can be done with a pillow or a ball behind your head. This can be done with the head on the ground. But as one leg is moving, or as they're both moving, make sure that there isn't a hike in the hips. The core muscles are on. You're maintaining your imprint. Good. One more with the left leg up, right leg down. And then keep that left leg to the sky, right foot to the floor, lower the head and the chest, and just bend that left leg in towards you. As you inhale, pull the leg across the body, open the left arm, turning the palm to face up, coming into a twist. So right, not forcing this, just breathing into it. Yeah, and your left arm, it can be back at a diagonal, it can be at a goalpost, it can be out to a T, right? Anywhere you want it, just feel some weight behind that shoulder. Think of the tailbone curling under just a little bit so there's some length to your lower back. Yep. And then breathe into the side that you're feeling the stretch. So breathe into all that space in between the rib cage and the pelvis. And then as you exhale, use your obliques to bring you back. So ribs, pelvis, left leg to the ground, right leg into your chest. And then on an inhale breath, right, that right arm opens, the left arm can help pull that leg across. And we're not forcing this, right? If you haven't twisted much yet today, just go easy, right? It's the first kind of big rotational stretch. Breathing into that sideline again. And checking in that your left side isn't super arced off the ground. It might be a little bit lifted, but there isn't a ton of space there. You're also not super compressed down into the ground. Again, as you breathe in, breathe into all that space in between the rib cage and the pelvis. And then as you exhale, bring it back to center and then make your way up to seated. If you have a band, you can grab it, right? So if you have a long band, have your thighs together as you tie it around, just kind of make bunny loops so you can get the thing undone easily. If you have this little mini TheraBand, try to keep it really wide as you bring it up over your knees. Yeah, if it bunches up, it just tends to not work quite as well. Right? It'll still do the trick, but it's nicer if it's kind of wide. And now we can always ditch these at any point, right? So this is going to get kind of intense in our glutes. So we're going to come onto our left side, or actually any side you want facing me. Yeah, as long as you can see me. And that might be in a mirror. But yeah, just us side. I'm just going to adjust this microphone. All right, band is around the thighs. Bottom arm can be long with the palm up. And then your knees are bent forward, heels are in line with the back of the sit bones. And then take your top hand onto your top hip and allow that hip to hike up a little. So this is where we don't want to be. And then feel that hip reach down slightly. Keep the front of the waistline in, lift the top thigh into the tension of the band and hold. Flex the top foot so your toes are turned up to the sky a little bit as well. And then push that top heel down as you push your thigh up into the band. And do you feel your butt? Right? So keep that on. So as you lower the thigh down, don't lose the tension of the band. As you lower, you're still controlling from the back of the glutes. And then as you exhale, right, core is in, lift from the back side of the glutes. Right? There's a moment of pause and then we bring it down slowly. So right away, if you're using a band and you're like, nope, that was a bad decision, you can ditch it. All right? We can always come back to it. And the thing with using these bands, you want to make sure you don't have so much tension that you can't lift your thigh into its full range. And that's going to look really different from me to you and from your neighbors, right? All of our range of motion, our hips are a bit different, but make sure you don't feel like the band is restricting how high you can lift. And then think of your core working here to help stabilize you, and not just the front of the abs, but also your back extensors. Right? Making sure as the thigh goes up, the pelvis isn't rolling back. Yeah, and then for Kurt, just feel that top hip reach a little forward. Yeah, there you go. And then keep that thought as your thigh goes up. Think of your top hip going a little forward. Yeah, there you go. All right, and if you're not sure if your butt's working, reach back and touch it, right? Make sure you feel some tone back there. And it's gonna be that whole, right, backside. Whole thing's working. Is everyone feeling this? Yeah, nice. I did this earlier, so I'm just gonna watch today. Good, couple more. Check in that the shoulders aren't getting real tense. There's that little bit of waistline before you lift. Yep. And then Valerie, top hip forward just a little bit. Just that top hip. Yeah, or think of the top hip kind of rolling towards the spring. Yeah, there you go. Yep, and then, oh no, sorry, the master. Yeah, there you go. So think of that hip going forward as you lift. Yep, there. Do you feel more glute there? Sweet. The next time you lift up, hold. Just hold. Try to relax things that don't have to work. Your neck, your jaw, keep the back of the glutes on and active. And then lower that leg down. So coming into internal rotation, the thigh, the knee, and the foot will lift. All right, we're in the tension of the band. And I'm going to push backwards slightly. So just a little bit. So I'm pushing back into the tension of the band. My knee is 90 degrees. The front of my hip is opening a bit. As I exhale, I'm going to rotate my thigh in. So essentially that foot is kicking to the sky. And then I'm rotating back to center. As you rotate in, try not to lose the resistance in the band. And if you feel into this, if you find your hip bone and just come down slightly and back slightly, you want to feel this pretty deep in the side of your hip. So it's deep, deep glutes and hip rotators. And it's really nice to get these internal rotators working as well as external and abductors and all the rest, right? Yep. If you don't feel this, let me know. Those of you at home, if you don't feel it, make sure you're not overly rounded in your spine or overly arced, right? Trying to find neutral, help these muscles turn on a little more efficiently. Last two. Yep. And last one. Yeah, and then let everything rest. And just kind of rub out the side of the hip, the side of the glute. And if you're new to this one, usually can be a little bit intense at first. It should start to feel better over time though. So this next one, the top leg is going to go long and the foot's going to be pointed. And then as we exhale, we're just going to lift up about hip height into the tension of the band. So that top leg is just in line with the rest of the body, right? The leg is straight but not locked. And we're still working into kind of that side glute area. It'll feel a little bit different than that internal rotation, but there's some side butt going on. So on your next breath out, we're just going to lift a little bit higher into that resistance without hiking the hip up like this. And then as you inhale, lower that leg down, almost touching the floor. And then again, a little bit of waistline to exhale, lift. Trying to maintain parallel today. And then inhale, coming down. So again, there's the lift component, the pause, and the control down. And all three, your glutes are still working, right? And this is one of those ones that if you have any kind of bursitis or kind of just achy stuff going into the side of the hip, the band might not necessarily feel good. So just keep that in mind. Yep. Yeah. And then Kurt, bring that top hip just a little forward. Yeah, there you go. Yep. And the back of the hamstrings are still working. The back side of the glutes are still working, right? To keep kind of pushing back into that resistance a little bit. Last one. And then let everything rest down. And again, just kind of rub out the side of the hip. Yeah, nice. And then keeping the knees together. Take the hands to, behind the head. Elbows will be forward to start. And then on an exhale, we'll take that top elbow a little bit up and start to rotate the head and the rib cage back in space. Now the hips are going to stay fairly stacked, right? They might move a little bit, that's fine. But we're really trying to find the motion in our upper spine and our middle spine. Think of the pubic bone lifting slightly, the tailbone lengthening down just a bit. So there's some length in the lower back. And then once you find it, just hold and breathe into it. Yeah. And then as you exhale, think of your obliques, think of your waistline rotating you back to center. Yeah. This one is so good for our backs. And again, on a breath, top arm lifts slightly, top elbow right, start to rotate back, really thinking of upper and middle spine. And then for Julia, feel the ribs drawing in just a little bit and the tail curling under slightly. Yeah, there you go. Yep. And whenever you get there, just hold and now breathe into it. Side of the ribs, back of the ribs. Try to keep the neck supported. You could also use a pillow on this, right? On your next breath out, rotate back to center and then prop yourself up on your bottom forearm. Yep, and we still have the band, right? I guess at any point you want to ditch it, you can. So elbow is about under the shoulder. Top arm is going to come underneath your bottom armpit area. And you're just going to kind of slump down a little bit to start. So you're not going to feel too much activation here. And I want you to push down into your bottom forearm and lift the ribs up. And you should feel some muscles under here turn on. So your lats, your obliques. Now you can stay here or you can lift the hips as well, keeping the knees and the feet on the ground. Now top arm at any point can go to the sky. So we're kind of in a prepped version of forearm side plank. Just hold here for a couple breaths. Make sure the spine, the back isn't overly rounded. It's not overly arched. And if you know you tend to be someone that rounds a bit, you want to think of lifting or opening the chest slightly. If you tend to be more of a rib popper, someone that's a little more extended, you might think of softening the ribs back, right? And just notice with those subtle corrections, do you feel more of this lower waistline and lower glute line? If you want to add on, lift your top thigh, knee, and foot, and just hold. Both sides of your glutes should be working on this, right? Shoulders are definitely working, spine's working. On your next breath, lower everything to the ground, including your arm. Set the shoulder. On your next breath out, lift the hips. Top arm to the sky, maybe the top leg. So thigh, knee, foot. Again, just holding. So both sides of the glutes working here. And everything comes down. Just one more like this. So setting the shoulder, feel that backside and underside of that blade. Lift the hips, set the waistline, maybe the leg lifts. Hold and breathe, this time for 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, rest. Press yourself up to seated and flip to your other side. Just make sure you're on your second side. Yep. Okie dokie. So bottom arm can be long, palm up, or again, arm bent, pillow, knees bent forward, heels or feet in line with the back of the sit bones. Top hip, let it hike up to start, and then lengthen it down a little bit. Feel the ribs softening as you exhale, lift the top thigh into the tension, hold. Flex the top foot, turning the toes to the sky a little bit, and then push that top heel down. And with that pressure of the heel pushing down, the thigh lifting, if you reach back and feel that glute, you should feel some tone there. As you inhale, take it down without losing the tension if you're using a band. And as you exhale, set your core first and then start to lift. There's that moment of pause and then the control down. And setting a little bit of the waistline, lifting, controlling it down. And just notice, right, how does the second side feel compared to the first? Yep. And then Heather, as that leg lifts, think of, Heather Miller, think of the top hip reaching down towards your feet a little bit. Yeah, there you go. Maintain that length as you lift. Yeah. Yeah. And you might notice your bottom glutes are still working to stabilize. You're welcome. Check in that your head, your neck, and your jaw, they're all fairly relaxed, right? Yeah, and you can reach back, feel the glutes, right? Check in with what's working. Sometimes those tactile cues, even if it's yourself doing them, really work. Yep. Nice, couple more like this. And the foot position, right, it's relative. If you like it better with your toes and heels together, if you feel more glute connection, go for it. Totally okay. Yep, and then Nancy, feel that top hip reaching down. Just slightly, and then those lower ribs drawing in slightly. There you go. Last one. Right, hold at the top for a breath. And take it down. Good. Top thigh, knee, and foot lift for internal rotation. So the thigh is lifted, the knee is 90 degrees, and I'm just gonna push backwards a little bit in space so the front of the hip opens up slightly. And then as you exhale, right, keep the tension in the band. Try not to drop the knee down, but rotate in. So your foot essentially is kicking to the sky and then come back to where you started. So it's an exhale, rotate in and back to center. Right? And just making sure, right, top hip isn't hiking. We're not rotating the pelvis back in space. And this is one that if the front hip crease, that top hip, if you feel that doing more work than the side of your bum, come down, take a little break, reset, and then come back into it. So there's some little hip muscles over there that can start to do work or too much work when it's not needed. It's just retraining out of that, right? Especially if this is relatively newer. Yeah, that's it. Couple more. Everyone's feeling this, correct? Oh yeah, okay, yay, good. Last one. And then rest, everything comes down, just rub out the side of the hip a little bit. And then that top leg is gonna go long, foot pointed, right? Hip stacked, shoulder stacked, waistline in, exhale, lifting about hip height. On your next breath out, lift up a little higher. Just make sure it's not from the hip hiking. You're actually getting that movement of your thigh bone in your hip. Inhale, take it down almost to the floor. Again, set a little bit of waistline, exhale, lift, fairly parallel. There's that moment of pause, and then we bring it down. And again, this one is gonna look really different from you to me, from your neighbor. Just because all of our hips and the way our thigh bones fit into those hip joints are all really different. So make sure you're feeling more of those adductors, so side of the hip, side of the glutes, not just hip crease, right? So if you feel just the hip crease, come down, take a little break, reset your bum, reset your core, and then lift back up. Yep. Last two. And last one. Nice. And then bring everything down, knees together. Just rub out the side of the hip a bit. All right, hands behind the head, elbows a bit forward, hips will stay fairly stacked. All right, as you exhale, top elbow is going to lift a little. The head and the upper ribs and upper spine start to rotate backwards. And your hips are going to stay relatively stacked. There's some length to your lower back. And just breathe into this. Yeah, and there might be a little bit of space right underneath the ribs. Just make sure it's not huge. You're not overly pushed down into the ground. You're not overly arced up away from it. And then as you exhale, use your waistline to bring you back to center. And again, top elbow lifts a bit. On a breath, start to rotate backwards. Still a bit of that lift through the front of your pubic bone, some length in your lower back. Just hold and breathe into the sides. So see if you can use that breath we started with. So that inhale side to side in the ribs, back of the ribs, to help create a little bit more space, a little more movement. On your exhale, come back to center. And then prop yourself up onto your bottom forearm. Right? Top hand underneath the armpit area and just kind of sinking down a little to start. And then pressing into that forearm, lifting the ribs. So you feel some muscular energy under the armpit and down the side of the rib line. And you can stay here, maybe lift the hips and take that top arm to the sky. Yeah, and first just feeling, right, the bottom hip line. So those glutes are on, the whole side of the waist is on. Shoulders, back of the shoulder blades, it's all working. Maybe lift the top thigh, knee and foot. Feeling not just the top glutes, but also the bottom stabilizing glutes. And then everything can come down. Right? Reset the shoulder, make sure the shoulder's not rolled forward. There's a sense of opening the front of the collarbone. Hips can lift. Top arm, maybe the top thigh, knee, and foot. Right? And as you breathe out, see if you can feel that connection into your obliques, both the front of the rib line, the side of the rib line. Take it all down. Again, reset, lift. Yeah, maybe pressing into the tension of the band. Head can always look down to the ground if you want to offload your neck a little. And down. Last one, we'll hold at the top for about 10 seconds. So lifting, setting, and just holding here for another 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, still breathing, 3, 2, rest. And then come up to seated, ditch your band. We are done with that thing if you're using it. All right, nice job. That guy's gone. Come up to the top of your mat. So just somewhere to the top. If you're on thick mats like us at the studio, your hands might move to the front onto a harder surface if you want more wrist support. Knees and thighs are together. Press into your arms, really widen through your upper back. And then one leg at a time can reach back into front support or plank. If you look at your feet, if you're in this full version, make sure you're not rolled out, but you're pretty even through your toes, especially the first toes. Eyes slightly forward, stomach lifting. And there's a sense of your heart pulling forward and a sense of your tailbone drawing back. Now, this can be done on the knees. This can be done on the forearms. Inner elbows, right? Little bit of a bend so you feel your biceps working so your joints aren't locked. All right, and it's going to feel like your inner elbows are kind of pointing forward slightly. Take about 3 more breaths here. Every exhale, feel your stomach lifting. Same thing that we started with, right? The very first thing that we did. Except now as you inhale, you're breathing into the side and back of the ribs so you're not overly disengaging your abs. On your next breath, take the knees down one at a time. Round your spine like a cat or take child's pose. Relax the glutes. Widen the shoulders. Let the head relax. And then on breath, come back to hands and knees. Good. Knees and thighs will come together. And again, one leg at a time can walk back into plank, round 2. So again, just make sure, right? It doesn't have to be a huge bend in the arms, but just not locked. You feel biceps, triceps. There's a sense of really pushing down into the hands and feet. So your thigh muscles are on, your glutes are on. If you look at your toes, again, try to even them out just the best you can. And keep breathing. Now, if you want to add on, there's no change to the pelvis or the rib line. Your left leg taps just off the side of your mat, pulls back in, and then the right leg just off to the side of the mat. Think of repressing down into the 3 limbs that are still on your mat before you pull that leg back. Reaching out, pulling in. And this can also be done with the knees on the ground, taking one leg back, out to the side, and then back to where you started. One more each side. Ending to your right. And then coming into resting pose or child's pose. Knees can be together or apart. Arms can be forward or behind you. If they're behind, palms up, let your shoulders get really heavy. Just let them fall to the ground. Take a big inhale. And on your exhale, just let things get a little heavier. One more breath like that. Big inhale into the back of the ribs. Exhale, let things get a little heavier. Nice. And then make your way up and onto your belly. All right. You got that fitness ball? Yeah. So we'll just take that thing right up against the wall. So hands are going to be slightly forward, elbows back. Yep. And hold. So legs are going to go as wide as you need them for your lower back to feel pretty comfortable. Pubic bone heavy, belly lifts. Keeping your elbows on the ground. Let the eyes come a little forward and then start to peel the head and the chest up. And we're only going to come so high that the elbows don't lift for now. So we're trying to find some motion and some movement, some work in the upper spine. Now staying here, let the knees be really heavy. A little bit of work in the back of the glutes, lower ribs are lifting. On your next breath out, take it all down. And you might have to reassess where you placed your arms, right? If it feels pretty tight in the shoulders, just adjust, maybe a little wider. And again, inhale, set the stomach, eyes start to come forward, shoulder blades react, they start to draw down and in. There's a sense of your elbows pulling back and your heart pulling forward, right? There's still a bit of the belly drawing in, even though it's on length. On your next breath, take it down. Nice. And if you want to add on your next breath, then start to peel up and just see how far can you come up without you overusing your arms, right? So really think of the upper spine and the middle spine taking you into this extension. And then when you can't go any further, kind of imagine your fingertips are reaching forward, arms extend, and you can come into your full swan or full back extension. Again, all options. Feel some length at the top, some ease in the shoulders, and then just bring it down slowly. Yeah, and then again. So we'll set the shoulders, start to peel up without too much help from the arms. So peeling on up, peeling up. Legs heavy. Eventually find that reach through the fingers. Right? Lift through the heart, ease back into the shoulders. On your next breath out, take it down. Nice. Last one like this. So peeling up, setting the shoulders, up, setting the spine. Yeah, you're fine. You're good. Good. Yep, find some ease at the top. Again, feel that it's, abs are working with your spinal muscles. Take it down. And then at the bottom, take the hands underneath the forehead. Bend the knees and windshield wiper the feet from side to side. Yep. And just allow the hips and the pelvis to move. Good. Yep. And then bring the legs back to center. The arms can come behind you, palms facing down next to your mat. So somewhere on the floor. nose about an inch off the ground. So set your stomach, anchor the pubic bone, start to set the shoulders a little bit together and down. Inhale, get so long through the crown of your head that you start to peel up. And again, make sure it's not just your lower back overly bracing, but you're finding some motion and movement in the upper spine. Right? Those low floating ribs, they're still lifting a little. There's that connection to the front of your obliques. Right? Hold at the top and breathe. Maybe float the arms off the ground. On your next breath, control it down. Heather, if you want to add a little bit of rotation from side to side, that might feel nice. Yeah. Yeah, really just kind of letting your back kind of extension rotation. There you go. On your next breath, start to peel back up. Yeah. Yeah, and at the top, make sure, right, if it feels like it's just your lower back holding you up here, you might take your chest and head down just a little lower. Right? You might take a pillow under your hips, maybe lift the arms and lift the legs. And as the legs lift, feel the front of the hips opening to allow the back of the glutes to turn on. So when that lift doesn't just come from the low back bracing, right? It's all working together, but you feel the whole back line working as a unit. On your next breath out, lower everything down to the ground. And then again, set the stomach, start to set the shoulders, peel back up, right? Head, chest, eventually arms, maybe eventually the legs. We can stay up here if we've decided to lift everything up. Again, adjust your height if needed. On your next breath out, take just your right arm to a T. Maybe take it forward to kind of a half Y, or maybe take it all the way in front of you. If it's in front of you, the palm is turned to face in. And then on your next breath out, take that arm back where it started. So again, on your next breath out, left arm can reach out to a T, palm down. Maybe it starts to reach a little bit more forward. Eventually, shoulder blade dropping, widening, palm turning in, and then bringing it back to where you started. So take a couple more on each side like this. And I want you to feel that as that arm is moving, your waistline has to do a little bit more work, and your upper and your middle back have to do a little bit more work. And just finish off with your left arm, right? Whenever you get there. Yep. Yeah, and once you finish that left side, just take it all the way down, child's pose, knees can be open. Yeah, and there's no rush, just whenever you're there. Yep. Nice. And just breathe into it. Out. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Let the whole back line start to stretch open. Good. Right, and then rise up to kneeling. So we're on padded mats, right? If you're at home on a yoga mat or something like that, you might fold your mat like a hot dog. But we're gonna have left leg forward and right leg back. So you're not gonna necessarily feel a huge stretch at first on this. So we want your right knee about under the hip and your left knee about over the ankle. So again, you might not feel too much stretch in this right hip just yet. Feet can be as wide as you need them to feel balanced, right? To not feel super shaky. And if the hips are on the tighter side, you can take your feet wider to kind of let that go. And then just kind of even out the hips, right? So allow your left hip to start to drop a bit. Take one hand to your belly and one hand to your lower back. And then feel some weight. Feel your back leg root down into the ground. Lift your belly and just feel a little bit of length in your lower back, right? You're not overly tucked, but there's some length. And then imagine your back thigh is pulling forward and your front heel is pulling back. And then give your back glute a little squeeze. And do you feel a stretch in your hip? All right, if you don't quite feel it yet, keep all of that stuff happening. Inch your front foot forward a couple inches and just take your pelvis and your torso maybe forward an inch or two. Again, not overly tucking, staying fairly neutral, but there's that sense of the lift in the front and drawing down and back. So maintain that, let your arms relax. You can take your hands to your chest or the back of the head. But as you exhale, you're gonna twist to the left. So you're gonna twist towards your front leg. Try not to hike that left hip. Inhale, come back to center. All right, and again, as we exhale, we're rotating through the upper spine. So it's upper back and middle back extension rotation. Back to center, right? And just one more like this. You'll also start to feel a little bit more stretch in the front of the hip as you twist. Right? Come back to center and then switch sides. Nice. So right leg forward, left leg back, or just make sure you're on your opposite side. Feet as wide as you need them. Right? Knee over ankle, back knee under hip. Right? And then start to drop into the right hip the best you can. Right? Feel waistline draw in, tailbone lengthen down slightly. And then it's all about where you put this intention. So that back thigh is rooting downward, front heel pulling down and back thigh pulling forward, right? Waistline drawing in, a little bit of a squeeze into the back glute. If you don't quite feel the stretch yet, maybe walk your foot just a little forward and let your torso and your pelvis come with it. But there's a sense of your stomach and your back glute kind of putting on the brakes. The arms can relax whenever you want, hands right to the chest or behind the head. And as you exhale, think of where the breastbone is and you're twisting to the right. So you're just twisting towards that front thigh without letting that hip hike. Inhale back to center. And again, as you exhale, feel that weight still in your back leg as you twist away from it. Right? Ribs are still softening in. Inhale center. Shoulders easy. Last one. Back to center, and then let the legs relax down. Come up to standing any way you'd like. And if you want to make this balance work more challenging, stay on your mat, especially if it's squishy. Less challenging, step away from it. And then if you need a wall or a chair or something, just have something close by. And you're just going to step one foot in front of the other. It doesn't matter which one. Kind of like you're on a tightrope. Right? And then start to shift your weight forward towards the front foot and then back. And find a place where your feet feel pretty equally weighted. Legs are straight but not locked, right? Just kind of easy in the arms, easy in the shoulders. And then close your eyes if you want to challenge your balance. Now, if it starts to get a little shaky, you can open your arms up, right? Taking up a little bit more space can help. You can always open your eyes or open one eye. But start to feel for some of that natural rotation and kind of that adjustment that happens in our feet and our lower legs. So allow that to happen. Keep the waistline in gently, shoulders easy. And then open your eyes, step the back leg forward. Yeah, right. And the more stacked your feet are, the harder this is going to be, right? If you want less challenge, just take the feet a little wider. Shift forward and back, find a place that feels pretty even. Yeah, hips pretty square. Right, easy in the body. And then when you're ready, right, if you want, close your eyes. And just see what happens. You'll generally get a little shakier. Try to ease your breath, right? Make sure you can feel your breath coming in and out. Just a couple more breaths here. Good, open your eyes. And then step so the feet are about inner hip distance apart. So see about two fist distance or so. And I'll demo this from the side. So hands are going to come onto the hip bones. The fingers are going to spread back into the side of the glutes. Legs just a little bit bent, body upright. And I'm going to walk my right leg slightly behind me. I'm really going to root into my left leg. So I'm pushing down. You want to feel the side of your left glutes. And eventually you're going to bend that right leg. And as it bends, right, you don't want to see a big kind of hip drop and shift. Everything's still pretty stacked. And do you feel your left glutes? So this is essentially your side series that we were working on today. Right? And then send the right leg down to the ground, right? Put some weight in it. Left leg starts to walk back. Eventually it bends. Right? There isn't a big drop or too much shift happening. You might feel a little, but you know, not too much. There's some work in those right outer glutes, right? And then let that leg come down. If you want to add on, your left leg's on the ground. The right leg bends. Waistline's in. Keep your waistline kind of straight like a plank. And if you take your hands into the front of the left hip crease, start to hinge forward. So my back leg is reaching behind me. I'm hinging into my left hip crease. And then I'm rooting into that left leg to bring me back up. So this is your hip extension. Right? Again, waistline's in. I'm leaning forward, hinging into that left hip. This is where you can hold onto a wall or a chair or a counter. Root into that left leg to bring you up. So it's glutes, hamstrings, all the rest, bringing us up. One more like this. So hinging, right? Just make sure you're not locked out on that standing leg. Easy in the shoulders. Bringing it back up. Nice. Flip side. So right leg's on the ground. Right? Left leg can bend, not too much shift. Waistline's in. And then fingers can come into that right hip crease, and that's where the movement's coming from. Left leg is going to reach a little bit behind us. Leaning forward, doesn't matter how far, just keep the back line pretty straight. Keep the waistline in, root into that standing leg to bring you up. And you're going to feel more kind of the backside and center line of the butt. Again, hinging, hamstrings working while they're lengthening. Easy in the shoulders and bringing it up. One more. And even checking with what on the foot's working. So is it just your first toe kind of crunching into the ground and trying to hold you and stabilize you? Or can you relax kind of the first and second toe, let the whole foot work? So all the toes, balls of the feet, heel, allow that little bit of movement, that adjustment to happen. Next time you're up, take both feet onto the ground. Hip distance, shake out the arms. Lift the shoulders up and down a couple times, maybe roll them back. And just find a place where the arms are easy, legs are straight but not locked. Nod your chin. And just slowly start to roll down. Feel the waistline lifting as you come down. Ooh, and just let everything get pretty heavy, heavy in the arms, heavy in the head. And as you breathe here, on the inhales, think of the ribs expanding, right? Almost like you had helium in them. And as you exhale, imagine things just getting a little heavier. A couple more breaths, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Bend the knees just a little bit more. Take a big inhale. And then as you exhale, root into your feet and slowly start to roll up. Feel that connection from the ground up into your legs, hamstrings, glutes, core, right? Both the back and the front. Shoulders roll open. And we will end you there today. Thanks for joining.